Okay, so we are reading Dorothy Dunnett, Porn in Frankincense, chapter 3, called Una, which is not the biggest chapter, and it feels like less happens in this chapter than the previous two chapters, but the biggest thing is that I'm assuming at the end of this chapter that Una is dead. So I kind of wanted to talk about that before I read on, because, I mean, the last sentence that you have here, and below the black silky lashes, the wide eyes were packed full of straw. I did not expect that, even though I should have, and so I was shocked. And my first thought is she's dead, but maybe she's not. Maybe they just have her alive and have gouged her eyes out and put straw in them, which sounds worse than death in a way, but I mean, technically I would rather be alive with straw eyes than dead, but I think she's dead. So yeah, that was very shocking. More shocking than sad, because the way in which it was written was really for shock value. Whereas yeah, I think the last death that, like for example, Will Scott's death was written in a way that was very emotional and like led up to like how sad it was, whereas this is just wild and crazy essentially. So the chapter arrives as they've just finished their ship fight, and I just wanted to point out one interesting, I think this is Philippa's POV, where Philippa is basically observing that, is it Philippa? It could be Jared. It's one of them. No, I actually think this is Jared's POV. Basically he's saying, for Francis Crawford and Mart, for Francis Crawford and Mart were alike. Sometimes the physical resemblance between them was striking enough to be uncomfortable. So what I am thinking here is that because there was a suggestion back in Queen's play that the Dame de Duton knew Lymond's family, mother's side of the family, I think, or like grandmother or grandfather, something along those lines, which makes me think if Lymond is a bastard, then his father maybe is the same father as Mart or something. It's just an interesting thought, and like if we actually get the background on Sibylla playing up, and I would be really interested into going into that history, because I know that Sibylla would not do something, she seems very unlikely to be the sort of person that accidentally gets herself knocked up. So for me, if Sibylla has gone and done something and was in a position where she was pregnant to another man, like it feels like it should be deliberate, and I really want to know the history to that. And this might never be something that comes up in the book, but I would totally be interested to know the details. So we get a lot of background on, I've said this before, but I just love Jarrett's POV a lot. Lymond and Mart don't necessarily get along very well. It's also noted here. I think they both give each other about the same amount of shit that they receive. There was a sad note here that we are losing, no, this really got to me, the Salablanca, the ex-slave that Lymond picked up when he was in Tripoli. Yeah, his name is Salablanca, the free Moor in his personal service. Because he's from Algiers and his parents are in Algiers, Lymond basically, you know, he had received his final freedom from Lymond, and slipping overboard with all his possessions bound to his head, he had swum ashore without waiting for morning to be reunited with his parents at last. That's so telling that obviously this person wants to see his family, isn't even waiting till morning, has so few possessions that he can tie them to his head. And it's just nice because he stuck with Lymond loyally for the past like 2 years or whatever it was, when Lymond was in Scotland, and then all through his travels over the past few months, which is just like a really lovely thing, because he wanted to pay Lymond back for the service of his freedom, and Lymond did free him. It makes me wonder if Lymond knew Salablanca before he was freed. I don't know. I think maybe I've missed that, but either way, it's just really, really beautiful, especially because, you know, Salablanca really truly cared for Lymond's safety, and like I kind of in a way hope he comes back. There was like a weird line that I am struggling to figure out the interpretation of, and this is at the bottom of page 50, and it's Jarrett's POV again. Jarrett is basically, you know, they've just arrived in Algiers, and we're getting a description of what Algiers is like. Quails in baskets, copper, pelts for floor mats, terracotta, piles of roots and odd vegetables, another mosque, a long blank wall, blah, 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 blah. But then there's this line, the lustrous dark eyes in smooth olive skins turned as they passed. So they're walking up Algiers to get to see, I forget his name, they're going to see, oh my gosh, you know what I've just realized? Dragut is not actually really mentioned in other characters in order of their appearance. Like, he's not mentioned on here. Dragut is not mentioned in this. So we're not ever seeing Dragut in this. But anyway, Lymond, I believe, at the time was hoping to find Dragut here in Algiers. And they're walking up, and Jarrett is like, and Jarrett looked at Lymond and quickly away. So the lustrous dark eyes in smooth olive skins turned as they passed, chanting still, and Jarrett looked at Lymond and quickly away. Okay, now that I've reread that, I think I understand what it is. As they are walking, no one's looking at Jarrett, everyone's looking at Lymond. Which makes a lot of sense, because I know Jarrett is described as like black hair, and actually have no idea if he has olive skin or pale skin, but he would maybe look more similar to the locals than definitely Lymond is going to look. So I think Jarrett's probably just realized, oh, everyone's looking at Lymond. He looks at Lymond and then awkwardly looks away, because he's like, well, I may as well not be staring at him too. I actually interpreted that. I was just like, is Jarrett kind of getting attracted to Lymond? I mean, we know Jarrett likes Lymond as a person in general, and borderline what else he would like Lymond in, but we won't go there. And so they meet with the governor, who is very, oh, it was such a tense meeting. I was really stressed reading it. I'm actually a little bit shocked that Lymond just walked in. Like, a part of me is like, Lymond, come on, like, they could have just shot you. They really probably don't care. And if they had killed Lymond, they could have easily gotten everything they wanted from the ship. So the only thing that's holding them back is that I guess they have orders from above that please do not be outright, you know, warmongering on a ship with a French flag. Still, that's a lot to put your life on in this situation, so I feel Lymond is kind of crazy. There's a great line from when, so Lymond gives as a gift a gun, which was a wheel-lock carbine, which apparently, yeah, these are much more intricately made than the other types of guns, so they're not mass-produced, so they're quite fancy, and Lymond has bought some. Anyway, so Sala Rias, who is this governor person, shoots it, and there's this great line here, the smoke hung blue in the air, the wrung out acid smell of it coating the tongue. Amazing, I love that. Thundering back and forth in the bare high vaulted room. You can just imagine that gun going off. It's pretty amazing. Lymond manages to get out mainly just because this guy, Sala Rice, just wants all of these guns for himself. Has another meeting set up for them the next morning because I don't know why. I don't know why they're having a second meeting with Sala Rice, the governor person, when they could have just continued talking like then. But anyway, he's definitely coming because Lymond says when he notices I haven't included the bullets, he will come. Maybe, or he might just shoot the ship down. Geez, Lymond, it just feels like really risky, which I should be used to with Lymond, but this just feels especially risky. We also find out that Lymond has got a price for information on his living son of 500,000 ducats. I don't know how much it is, but that sounds like a lot of money. And that is his entire fortune. How did he get this money exactly? Who has he like got it off? Oh man. Lymond probably just, my idea is that he just goes around to people convincing them that he should be written into their inheritance. I feel like he would do really well with that. So then they get caught by some guy who's just coming up to them and says, I have news of Una O'Dwyer, who we know is supposed to be here in Algiers. And there's a letter here from Una that says, do not come, I do not wish to see you. Forget the child ever lived. It's been sold, they told me, but it may be a lie. It failed a lot, they said, after the branding. That's really sad. It failed. Imagine saying your child, referring to your child as it, and then saying it's failed. Like, it's so objectifying. And I think Una must do this because she cannot let herself get attached to the child. Like, she's just so devastated that that's how she has to think of it. I just called the child an it. Think of him. Your life has been wasted enough. It sounds like Una honestly did write this, so, and she signed her name. And then they go, they follow, and it's just, I'm honestly just gobsmacked that Lymond's just walking into a trap. We know that Lymond loves to spring an old trap real hard, but I don't know, it just seemed crazy. Especially so the man who was with them, it was kind of funny. Lymond turns around to this man who's delivered the message and says, Mr. Blythe, I should warn you, has a nervous disposition and a very sharp dagger. It's so funny. And Jarrett was just like really peeved about that, which is great. I love that. And as they set off, twisting and turning through the dark, Jarrett thought acidly that a slip of that dagger, if it happened, would save Francis Crawford a very large sum of money. It's so Jarrett's like really pissed off that, like, you know, he's been described as just having a nervous disposition and like a little bit jumpy, like easy to jump scare, which I feel like is so true. But also he's just thinking, you know, you shouldn't be saying that to me, Lymond, because, you know, just me accidentally putting this through his throat could save you a lot of money. Because now Lymond, if he actually comes across information on this kid, I'm assuming has to pay that money. But I don't know, I feel like that money would only be paid once he gets the child alive. But still. I mean, obviously you would put all of your fortunes into for a kid if the kid was you actually got them in your arms. So, wait, what? So anyone who's helped with the information, assuming that he gets the child back, will each of them be paid that much money? That doesn't make sense. I'm a little bit confused exactly what Lymond was saying there, but anyway. And then there's a really cute moment because this guy ends up turning on them and tries to kill Jarrett. Apparently this guy, Jarrett's holding a knife in his hand the whole time and is like fighting this guy off and just fights him off in a way that won't actually be very harmful to this guy. And Lymond is like, you know you've got a knife in your hand. And Jarrett's just like, I apologize, I'll go after him now. It's like, there was no excuse, which didn't make it any better. Jarrett's just like, yeah, what the hell, I have a knife in my hand and I have no reason as to why I didn't use it when that man was literally trying to murder me. It must just be instinct that Jarrett pulls his punches. Maybe he was just shocked, I don't know. I'm going to say that he just pulls his punches. And then Lymond says, don't be an ass, Jarrett. You know I can't do without you. Which was apparently an apology and appeal both at once. Well, that's very cute. Lymond just being like, yeah, please don't leave me. Like, that would be bad. I need you here. And I'm like, I mean, the feelings that Lymond must have at the moment is that he's about to walk into something that could be really dangerous, but he must be thinking of Una's safety. And yeah, I mean, that is as close as Lymond gets to an apology, that's for sure. So they get into this place and they're walking through and there's just this beautiful scene where Jarrett and Lymond are sort of just having a heart-to-heart in this empty house, and it's just really nice. Like, Lymond's like, ... Jarrett? And Jarrett's like, I can hear you. Or I hear you. Lymond says, however much I try, don't let me turn you against me. Which we've definitely seen Lymond do to other people before when Lymond is trying to protect someone, he basically makes that person dislike him, because then if Lymond gets in trouble, that person is going to be able to distance themselves from Lymond and not get caught up in the as like a co-conspirator. I assume that's what Lymond means here, and so what he's saying to Jarrett now is, if in the future there is ever a time when it seems like I am trying to get you annoyed and turn you against me and saying things that are really cruel and would make anyone want to murder me, just know that that isn't real and don't let me do it. Or maybe what he's saying is, let me pretend that you are turned against me, but know that deep down I am there for you. Just know that no matter how bad I am, I will be there for you. You have to believe that isn't real, no matter how hard that might be. Because I'm thinking maybe, Lymond says here, you put up with a lot, more than you should, more than other people can be expected to. This is like as nice as Lymond ever gets to a person. So Lymond likes Jarrett. I find I need a sheet anchor against Gabriel. I'm assuming a sheet anchor is just... I actually don't know what a sheet anchor is. Okay, so a sheet anchor is an additional anchor for use in emergencies, or a very dependable person or thing. Okay. So Lymond needs a very dependable person or thing against Gabriel. And so, yeah, I do think what Lymond is saying here is that there might come a time when it seems that I'm going to use you, and maybe it seems like I'm turning against you, but that is not true if that ever happens. And that's just really nice. And Jarrett sort of acknowledges that by saying, look, you command your own will, otherwise I shouldn't be here. Which is to say, I mean, I think that he's saying that, you know, Lymond, I respect that you command yourself and no one else, and I follow you of my own will. Lymond says then, there are some things I don't think I could stomach, and Gabriel knows them too well. Interesting. So what can Lymond not stomach? The death of children, the death of women? And Gabriel knows them too well. Well, that's foreshadowing now that I'm going back and reading it. So then they split off, because this is like an empty place they're looking through, and Jarrett is the one who finds Una's body. There is this amazing line, I had to read this 3 times, it was so good, that Archie said of Una, to describe Una, she is not one who has ever looked young, nor would she ever look less than beautiful. I just need to stop there because that's just really interesting. Because I know that Una is described as being in her 30s and she's never looked young, which means, is to say that she's always kind of maybe got a haunted look in her eyes. Just like aged beyond her years, even when she was younger. Black hair she has, you would say, like a barrel of pitch, and queer light eyes that look through you, and a neck you could put your one hand around. That is Una O'Dwyer. That's just such a horrid description, because even though it's so beautiful, because you're picturing like these like eyes that can look through you on top of such a dainty, delicate neck. But the fact that it's described as a neck you can put one hand around is just really reminiscent of the fact that there were probably lots of hands going around Una's neck back when she was going through all the domestic violence over the past decade of her life. And that's just, yeah, it's just creepy, a very creepy and haunting way to describe Una. And well done, Archie, that was a great description. We need to listen to Archie's description of everyone. I want to know how Archie describes everyone now. But yeah, I didn't know, I just didn't expect that there would be straw coming from below those black silky lashes. So what is the truth here? The truth is that the plan was always this. The plan was that the morning that Lymond set foot in Algiers would be the last morning of Una's life. That, I suppose, was always going to be the plan that Gabriel has come up with. Or Dragut, or Gabriel, I don't know, both of them. Definitely at least Gabriel. And I just wonder if Una was even aware of that. Because the letter that Una wrote feels like she wasn't fearing for her life. If she could have written, "Don't come, they're gonna kill me the moment that you put your foot on the ground in Algiers." That probably, I mean, it would be too late by then, but like, I guess the point is that even if Una was to have written something like that, they wouldn't have let the message get across to Lymond in any way, because they wanted Lymond to come. Gabriel wants Lymond to see this exact scene and for Lymond to hurt, because if this is one of the things that Lymond cannot stomach, this is what Gabriel wanted to have happen to Lymond, because he is crazy and wants to get like the most horrid kind of revenge, like psychological revenge. So I don't know, I just really hope that Una didn't kind of know that. I hope that Una just thought she was going to be able to live there peacefully and that Lymond would never come. It would have just been so awful for Una to know day after day, if she sees a French ship on the horizon, that that is the last day of her life. And that would just be such an awful way to continue to live in like fear every day, knowing that it probably would come. Lymond's probably going to come to that realization as well, because he's going to blame himself for Una's death. And a part of me just thinks that we all should have seen this coming, because there is no reason to keep Una alive. The money that Lymond wanted was for the kid, and even if Una dies, Lymond is still going to have the same desire to find his son. So Gabriel always knew that he could just play Una in his hand like a puppet, and this was going to be like the horrid death he would witness. And I mean, I assume Gabriel also plans to do that with the child too. So it's definitely a warning, and Lymond hopefully will be thinking twice about just going straight into finding the kid. And anyway, I want to keep reading, but I'm still in shock. I read this 2 days ago, and hands down the most shocking death so far. Even though we should not have been shocked about it, it was coming. It's just the most graphically, I don't think I'm ever going to forget that picture of Una dying. Even when I go back and reread this series, it's what I'm going to be thinking about. Anyway, I will see you after chapter 4. See you later.